Okay. Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to the 7:30 meeting, or 2024 continued budget meeting. Thank you for everyone for being here. Mr. Carter, thank you for flying in on such short notice. If everyone would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. Okay, Mr. Funderburk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So based on our conversations last Thursday at your budget workshop, I've adjusted the general fund budgets to remove all capital, all personnel count, and placed it on the second spreadsheet. If you're following along with what you should be on the sheets that I had some minor updates on this afternoon that I sent you around 4 o'clock. So your personnel request, and again, this is all based on the prior conversation, are one HR specialist, which would in essence be benefits coordinator, assisting Dora in various duties, but mainly coordinating FMLA, our employee benefits, and our SMIT and SMRF, which is our property and liability, and our workers' comp insurance. 3 patrol officers, 1 dispatcher, and the 3 firefighters that Chief Hasty talked about on Thursday night. In the first column, column B, those are your individual costs per person to include FICA retirement and group insurance. And then you've got your total columns in D. The total expense for those 8 people are $552,614 for the year. I'm sorry, I did not update the note. There are no longer any maintenance personnel requests after I met with our maintenance superintendent and public works supervisor on Monday morning and discussions around the grapple truck. They said that they did not need those at this point in time, so that we've pulled that request out. Yes, sir.
Is that only if they get the grapple truck?
Correct.
If they don't get the grapple truck, are they going to add those employees back in there?
Without the grapple truck, we will need the dump truck that we had talked about at a previous council meeting, and we will need those 2 people.
Okay.
Just to be able to keep up with what we have now. With the grapple truck, it allows them to get employees back during the course of the week that can be tackling the other things that stay on the back burner, other tasks and things like that around the city. The equipment cost, if you click on the sales, it's probably a little easier to follow, but you'll see the cost of patrol vehicles, and then what it costs to upfit the patrol vehicle, purchase a patrol vehicle, and the uniform and equipment that each officer needs. So you've got I'll call it per unit cost of $89,900. So we're only, with the 3 new personnel, if council approves that, you would have 3 of those. And then your number, the 338,600, it's the 89,900 times 3 plus the cost of the 1 replacement vehicle. I pulled it out of the general fund as well and stuck it over here. So we've, if you'll recall, Chief Crosby talked to you last Thursday about we've got 1 vehicle right now currently in the fleet that because of age and mileage, we're recommending that we sell that vehicle and replace it with a new one. So that's where, and that cost is $68,900. That's vehicle and fully equipped, lights, marking, sirens, things of that nature. Your turnout gear for the firefighters are $8,000 a piece. The replacement bucket truck, that $40,000 is anticipating buying a used bucket truck at auction. If we're fortunate, if council approves this, we're fortunate, may potentially get it for less than 40. We use the $40,000 number because if we don't do one, we're gonna have to sink about $40,000 into the one we have that's got over 200,000 miles to put a new engine and new transmission in it. So that's why we were using that 40,000 number, but we very well could find one at auction for 20,000, 23,000 or something like that. We just don't know until we get into that. And then your replacement radios for both the police department and fire department. It's and chiefs, help me here. I think it was 3 and 4, 3 for fire and 4 for PD. Yes, at $7,500 a radio, and that's where your total is there. Going on down in your projects, the crosswalk repairs of $110,000. I did like Joey's idea at the last workshop that we completely redo what we can, and then make it a phased approach versus just trying to patch and stamp what we have out there now, repaint, to completely make those a smooth crosswalk, painted to DOT standards. I think that may be a better route to go versus just trying to fix what's already out there, because it's just going to continue to deteriorate over time with that stamping that's in there. Yes, ma'am.
How different is the aesthetics of that going to be?
You're talking about smooth asphalt with white cross lines like they have now, no red paint, versus the stamped brick pattern look that's in there with the red paint. That's really your difference. It would just be a smooth, and it was actually, there was a walkability study that I think Ms. Duda and a group did several years ago as we were redoing Trailhead Park. And that was one of the comments that came back out of that was hard for somebody, whether you're pushing a stroller, trying to push ride a wheelchair, things like that, with all those grooves in there, makes it a little more difficult. So transitioning those back to smooth, one, you've got your full depth of asphalt, and you haven't taken any of that away with the stamping. And it also makes future repairs a heck of a lot less expensive if we do it this other way. So, and again, that's barring any funds that may be available from RFATs at some point in time through the course of the year.
Charlie, that does include thermo paint.
The delimiter lines have to be thermo. The cross lines, I think, are just your regular asphalt paint.
Might want
But
to
we'll have to get that permitted through DOT, so they'll specify.
Yeah.
The 110 was just the quote we got to fix what's out there now and basically return it to what it is. If council is on board with doing the idea of phasing this, let's see what we can get for the 110 to completely redo. It may only be one, but we can take the worst one, which right now, in my opinion, is Heron Harbor crosswalk, resurface that one to make it smooth. It's got the flashing lights already in it anyway, which is why RFAT's recommended that one first. It is one of our more heavily used ones, and it's in the worst condition. May be able to try to get that, but if RFAT's is able to, if there's some monies there that could go towards this as well, it may help us go a little bit further. Dustin, I think, did a good job of explaining the Windjammer Shoreline project. We see that being a 2-year approach to get the main channel and the point side done in this coming fiscal year, and then tackle the rest of it the following fiscal year on the Torrance Branch side. The Rundy Playground, I've got the second option dollar amount in there, not the first option that was $450. I'm just showing the $250 on that one. Tree removal at Windward that we discussed, and then the pickleball at $100,000. Deer management, still not showing a dollar figure in there. My recommendation is whatever council decides, whether it's just doing the sterilization or if it's sterilizing and culling. I think Joey and I, looking at the proposals from Dina Cola, we could, I want to say it was 250 deer sterilized and 80 deer culled, would put you at about $304,000. My recommendation is that we would use reserve funds to pay for that instead of operational funds. But again, that's just my recommendation. So from there, and if council just bear with me a few minutes, if you go back over to your general fund tab that I've got up on your monitors, but that first worksheet down at the bottom, you'll see that with none of that we just looked at being included in the budget's $1,392,405 to the good, revenues over expenditures. You can see with the staffing request, the equipment request, the project request, those total up to $1,572,714, leaving you with a deficit of $180,309. The second box of numbers is, again, if everything that we just talked about is included in there, but we don't use interest earnings revenue, then it puts you down to a deficit of $730,309. So as we talk through things, I want to talk about a couple of options for council to think about and discuss, specifically to your projects on that second tab. Pickleball courts of $100,000. We can, if council wants to, we can zero that figure out. We can pay for it directly with impact fee balance, Parks and Rec impact fee balance, which is $1.284 million right now. So you're not impacting your impact fee revenue up at the top, but we could pay for it directly out of the impact fee balance and pay that $100,000. We could also do the same thing with Rundy Playground if council is interested in doing Rundy Playground at all, and we could remove that entire $350,000 off of this budget, pay those directly out of the impact fee fund account for Parks and Rec. Again, that's just an option that is available to council if that's what you would like to do. But outside of that, I don't know where council wants to start. If you have any thoughts about what on this list that I've got on your monitors, that's on the personnel capital request, what on this you're interested in going into the budget, and what you don't want to go into the budget. I don't know if you're at that point yet, ready to discuss that. Unfortunately, I have a number of department heads that are out of town. But I do have Chief Hasty, Chief Crosby here. If you've got questions specific to police and fire, but and I think between me, Bob, and Dana, if there's questions on the other parts of the budget, if we can, we'll do our very best to answer those for you. So, Mayor, Council, where do y'all, to be prudent with our time, where do you think is a good place to start?
So we've had some offline discussions a little bit, just trying to get our heads around all of this.
Sure.
This is a lot to digest. I sent an email to council, and I just forwarded it to you, just
Okay.
so you have a copy of it. But I sent it to them just saying like, hey, here's my thoughts on it. Got a couple of responses, but just wanted to kind of kick that out. The ideas that I had is what to fund and what to wait on, and then maybe to ask for maybe a little bit more of a plan going forward down the road. I just want to maybe throw that out to my fellow council members and see if you guys had a chance to look that over. I know Brian did. Brian responded. I appreciate your response. Did you get a chance to look that over, any of you guys? I've made some recommendations on there on what I thought made the most sense this budget year for funding, and I'll just kind of walk through that real quick for those that either didn't read it or want some clarification on it. And if you wanted some clarification on why I came up with what I did. So here's what I sent to the gang, Charlie. I don't know if you opened that email yet or not. Okay, good. So I'm 100% okay with the explanation that I got on the dispatcher and some of the cross function that person would have. I think that would probably bring some value to the police department. As far as other head count, I don't have it in my heart to feel comfortable to approve any other additional head count. In the second tab there under equipment, I have the one patrol car replacement. If we're not doing head count, we don't need fire turnout gear. I'm okay with the bucket truck, and I'm okay with the 4 replacement radios for PD.
You would still need the 3 replacement radios for fire.
I thought
those weren't necessary because
I thought they were for the head count. Okay, I misunderstood that. Okay, so I would amend my, my spreadsheet here then. And then under projects, I was in support of repairing the crosswalks, the Windjammer shoreline. Let me skip over Rundy Park for a second. Tree removal, I'm okay with. $100,000. I like your suggestion on taking that from impact fees. I am comfortable with the $300,000 on the deer. And instead of replacing or putting in an expensive playground, I thought we could budget. We might have room for 50, maybe 60 or $70,000 for park improvement this year, and then maybe ask Dustin if he could give us maybe a 3 or 5 year plan on what we need to anticipate going down the road, because $500,000 playground just didn't make sense to me. It just I couldn't see the value in that.
So you did see that we reduced it down to 250, correct? So I will say, just having been in that game for quite some time here in TKK, phasing in playground equipment is going to be, especially with the way it's situated at Rundy, is going to be pretty impossible to do, just to be quite honest. Now, 50 grand towards Rundy Park, without talking to Dustin, my guess would be we could replace some fencing around the ball fields.
Yeah, and I'm not necessarily
yeah,
saying
that kind of
put
thing,
50
but-
grand into Rundy, but there are other parks that need some attention too. And I was thinking maybe we could put some money in the budget for improvements in the parks. But man, $250,000 for a play set, I'm uncomfortable with that.
Okay.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate that, you sharing that with us. I have a little bit different view or take on this. The city has gone off and proposed what they would like to see in regards to staffing. So I agree with the staffing for the HR specialist, the 3 patrol officers, 1 dispatch, and 3 firefighters. I think that is something that the city needs to be proactive, because we are doing nothing but growing at this point with their neighborhoods coming online, Windhaven, and then TGK, Main Street TGK coming online. So we need to be proactive to get ahead of that before we need anything, and make sure that the departments have what they need. In regards to the equipment, they're going to need that equipment. I did say when I sent out email to them that I wanted to reduce the patrol officer and reduce it to put the firefighter as well and the patrol vehicle, but that changed when you said possibly doing Rundy Park and paying that out of impact fees, and then pickleball paying that out of impact fees, because that changes the dynamic. If we keep all the personnel,
So
the equipment,
I can show y'all on the screen. And Scott, I can do it with your scenario as well. So let me start with Brian's, if you will. If we were to do Rundy Playground out of impact fees, so I'm just going to zero that
zero
out.
it It would
And
be
then I'm gonna
63,000 to
zero
the
out
good.
Pickleball here. He said
No, I said-
pickleball and Rundy
I said
out of impact
Out of
fees.
impact fees for Rundy and the pickleball. And
So
then
if
if we did that, it's gonna be $63,000 to the good. Oh, is it? Oh, 169. My
Yeah,
bad.
it puts you at 169,691 to the good
Mhm.
on the budget.
So let me clarify what you're saying. You're suggesting do the Rundy playground out of impact fees and pickleball out of
Out of impact fees.
Was
Yeah.
there something else that you had in there too? Or
No,
okay,
no. That one just
make sure I'm
changed right
doing
now
it.
when we just had this conversation.
So
The
it'd be
one that I
350.
the one that I sent this afternoon was reducing 1 patrol officer and 1 firefighter. But now with that, we can keep the personnel, we can keep all the equipment, do all the projects, but the 2 projects, Rundy Playground and the pickleball, will come out of impact fees. And that would help out the budget and put us to the good.
That would put you, if we're using, we have to account for interest earnings
Mhm.
regardless.
That's what I want
Whether,
to do.
whether it's on the spreadsheet or not, the auditors are going to
Yeah,
show
it's going to be in there.
that interest earnings as
As
revenue
income,
in.
yeah.
So whether it's there when we start the budget year or we leave it off and then they do the audit, they're going to show that interest earning. Okay. So with showing the interest earnings, that puts you 160, based on what Brian just said, that puts you at 169,691 to the good. Now, let me put those back in. just for now, and then I'll run through Scott's real quick.
Can I say something, Charlie? Regards to interest income, we have to show that in the budget, because when we do the audit at the end of the year, if I show a zero amount in our budget for interest income, and the auditors make a $550,000 adjustment, that's a footnote to the audit. I think you know that. It's a negative.
Right.
So Scott,
Fair enough.
you said remove HR, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, so we got HR gone, PD gone, firefighters gone. So then we're going to delete
That's
that.
zero.
So I'll zero that. And that leaves the one patrol car. We'll zero that. Leave the bucket truck, yes.
Yes.
And then the 7 replacement radios.
Yes.
And then you said take out Rundy.
Mhm.
Okay.
I
Or no, you said that's right.
I'm suggesting somewhere between 50 and 75,000. If you want to lean to the high side of that, I'm okay with that.
Okay, so we'll put 75,000
Okay.
there, and then the pickleball at
For
100.
general park improvement.
Right.
And,
We could add it to park maintenance or something like that.
and what about, can you put 300 in for
And
deer?
then 300 for
304?
deer. It was 304 was the calculation
Thank
we
you.
came up with. Whoops, 304. Yep, there we go.
Pickleball was going to be impact
And
fees,
then
right?
pickleball on the impact fees, so I zeroed that out. And with that, you are $577,681 to the good. Revenues over expenditures on the general fund side. Or $27,681 if we're just showing the interest earning revenues but not using them, if you will, as part of our general revenues.
Mhm.
So that's two schools of thought there. Who else? What are the other thoughts that we have?
Either one of the trucks, right? We got it, either dump truck or.
So the
Right.
grapple truck, and we can jump to that now. So that would be a stormwater piece of equipment, which is why I'm not showing it in any general fund. And technically, right now, I'm not showing it in stormwater. Based on pricing that our staff has looked at, you're talking about a $250,000 expense for the grapple truck. Okay, so there's 2 ways that could be funded. All right, one is it could be financed for 4 years. There would be no budgetary impact for the 24-25 fiscal year because it's 1 year in arrears.
Hmm.
All right, so the first payment wouldn't be until 25-26, and then you would have 3 more payments after that. Or it could be completely cash funded. We would just remove $250,000 out of drainage maintenance material, move that into capital. So that would put you plus $15,796 in drainage maintenance material over what we have currently budgeted this year. So there's 2 options in how to pay for that grapple truck. My recommendation is, and I know how council has felt about this on other things, is you finance it so that you can still get projects done in stormwater. You can get more, our staff can get more proactive on our storm sewer system, and we can get the piece of apparatus necessary to be more efficient in our curbside collection process.
Are you comfortable sharing what you think the value of that grapple truck is for $250,000?
For how much?
Isn't it 250?
250,000.
Yeah, $250,000.
I'm sorry, I thought you just said 4 million. I
No,
was like,
a $250,000.
hit us.
Excuse me.
No.
Sorry,
Right.
I spent a week with my brothers from Jersey. My English is a little different this week.
I'll be honest with y'all. Prior to my conversation Monday morning with our 2 lead staff members on in Public Works, I didn't see the value in it. I didn't think it would be something that would be suitable for here in the city. Jeremy Hutchison, who is our Public Works supervisor, right? So he's hands-on with the guys and what they're doing on a daily basis. He laid out what their schedule is right now as far as personnel and the time that it's taken versus personnel with the grapple truck. 100% see a massive benefit in it. One thing that I didn't contemplate was being able to use that to also pick up bagged items, which has gotten tremendously more out in Lake Ridge than in prior years, grass clippings and things like that. So if you think about it, you've got our folks that are out there throwing 40, 50, 60-pound bags, each bag, for an entire day, every day of the week, right? It's taxing on them. It's taxing on their bodies. But being able to go through, pick up bags with a grapple truck with one guy, right? He can also pick up brush as he goes. Then you're reducing the amount of staff time and the amount of day, that we envision that grapple truck basically running 5 days out of the week, right? Picking up brush.
Right.
But by Wednesday, you've now freed up 2 maintenance guys that are able to start doing other projects in the city, which when you think about it, we're about to move into here in a couple months. We're about to move into leaf season. That's going to take away one of our guys, so to speak, every day of the week. And most weeks, 6 days a week, right? Until February. And then on top of that, between them and our park maintenance staff, we got to hang lights in the trees, right? And then we've got to get the trees set up here, right? And so they're all involved in those things. And it gets extremely taxing to be able to get all the curbside collection done and all the extra things, plus being able to do stormwater projects, patch potholes, install street signs, straighten up street signs that maybe got clipped by a truck or something like that are leaning, all those different things that they're responsible for that they get to when they can right now. So after that meeting with them, I think it is a phenomenal piece of equipment that will be extremely well used 52 weeks out of the year.
I thought Tim said it wasn't effective on the small stuff. So we still got it. We'd still have to run the front end loader and a dump truck separate to the ground.
Not as much. Not as
They're
much.
still out there.
They're still out there, but you're not sending dump trucks up and down every single street 3-4 days out of the week.
And
Right.
then if we take the money out of stormwater, we've asked for it a year ago from Joey.
Yeah.
We still haven't got the list of here's the list with the cost of major stormwater repairs. We've asked for it twice. We asked for a briefing. We got a briefing. The info wasn't in it. And now we're going to we're raising stormwater rates in order to do that maintenance and fix these projects. And now we're going to take it away and buy a truck with it.
I think that's my concern also is that
My
there's-
recommendation is that you don't take it away to buy the truck, is that you finance the truck. I will commit to council that I will have you a list, at least what we know by middle of next week.
Well,
All right.
With my plan that you just put on the screen puts us, if I remember, 543,000 to the good. We could buy the damn grapple truck and still be $250,000, not $4 million, $250,000 to the good.
Right.
If we
And
don't put nothing in the reserve.
if we
We
put,
don't save that 5.
correct, right.
Mhm.
for the rainy day,
Yep.
which is coming.
So you're
Yes,
talking
it
about
is.
funding it from general fund instead of stormwater, is based on what you just said.
That was a suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
But then we wouldn't be putting any,
One other
we
issue,
wouldn't be putting any of that.
It'd be 250.
interest.
You'd be putting 250.
it'd be 250 to the good that would go back to
Right.
reserves. 250 probably
250,000.
plus.
Right.
And that's the way that you detailed it.
Yeah,
Correct.
that was my suggestion. Correct.
And I definitely see the
I'll-
benefit of
I'll
the
own
grapple truck. And it's something that the city absolutely needs because if we sit there and start to be backing up on leaf collection, on debris collection, stuff like that, that's when we start hearing it from the city. So we need
Oh,
to sit there
100%,
and be completely efficient with that.
And
One-
I think my concern is really, I do worry about the day-to-day, right? The leaf complaints and all of that. But I also have a real concern over what Tom said, and that is the big projects that are not being touched. And, part of this recommendation is to raise the stormwater fees so that we can address those projects. And when your recommendation, and I know it's not your best recommendation to use those the drainage
Right.
materials to buy the truck,
Correct.
but you're still willing to consider substituting doing drainage work for a truck. So I guess that's my concern is that we're raising fees, and the go-to there's a recommendation that you would be okay with buying the truck versus doing some of the projects.
I'm not okay with buying the truck instead of doing the projects because I think we need to try to be able to do both, which is why my recommendation is that we finance the truck and move forward. One one thing that's difficult to identify what are the major projects out there is right now we don't know all of them. We don't know until they rear their head above ground because we don't have the staff time and the personnel to be able to get out in front, to be able to start cameraing lines, be able to start inspecting inlets, catch basins, on the streets and inspect them on a more regular basis to see, okay, is the block, especially in traditional TGK, you don't have the prefab boxes the way they make them now. They're all brick built, and when you've got mortar and things like that, and you think about how much over the years since those things have been in, when you've got brine being spread on the roads during winter weather events and things like that, and that salt starts eating at those things. So we don't know which catch basins at this point need to be rehabbed, right? Because our staff is doing nothing but playing catch up.
I know that in February when that first storm hit and we had that original storm meeting, and I actually found the printout this weekend, but there was, I think, maybe 10 to 15 different.
They definitely have a
different
list. Yes.
So those are things that we know.
Mm-hmm.
On that list, there's 10 to 15 items, storm issues that have been identified as possible needing to.
Correct.
So how come is it that we don't have those identified as this is how much it'll cost and this is an order of importance based on how badly these need to be done, and this is what it's going to take over the next 2, 3, 5 years to address all of these? Because one of the things that I've also looked at is that there is a capital improvement plan that was done that encompassed 2015 to 2025.
Mm-hmm.
And in that plan, there was allocated expenses from each of your departments, and each department was given an opportunity to put in, this is what we think we will need over the next 10 years. And in that report, there was money that was put aside on a yearly basis to address each one of those expenses. But yet we don't have any guidance from that plan at this point. And I don't know what's happened to that plan. I guess that's what I'm saying is, why is it that we are not working from a capital improvement plan that was done and one that is going to need to be done as of 2025?
Fair question. I mean, to be honest, I don't have an answer for you. Not right here this second. I love working from a plan. I think that's a great way to do it. But sometimes life happens as well. I mean, years and years ago, Bob will recall this, we had a 10-year finance plan. And 6 months after it was finished, we had to throw it in the trash can because we hit the big recession of 2009, 2008, depending on which year you want to call it. And that was right when we finished the financial plan. It's hard to forecast 10 years. But now, as far as the stormwater projects and the priority and the things like that, I think one issue that we have right now is we don't know what those things are going to cost yet, but it's something that we need to work towards. We know that these are plans, but figuring out what those are going to cost and things like that, to be quite honest, I will speak specifically on the public works end. They're pretty much drinking from a fire hose 5 days a week. I mean, because they're kind of the catch-all, if you will, department. Something needs to get done, it gets sent to Public Works. A resident calls council complaining about this, that, and the other thing. Council calls me. Public Works is the one that goes and handles it and gets it done, right? So being able to just, hey, we've got a plan for the week, and here's what we're going to work on for the week. You pretty much throw that plan in the trash can by Tuesday on a lot of weeks, right? There is a list, and I will work with Tim and Joey starting first thing Monday morning and tell them I needed it priority, and whatever numbers we can put towards it, I want it, and I want it now so that I can deliver that to y'all electronically by end of the week.
I think it
I'll
would
give them a
just
week
be
to
really helpful.
to put it together as much as they can. Yeah.
And I do get that things change. I do get that budgets change. I do get that, what we know today may not be what we know in 2 years. but that's part of the plan, is to be
Right.
able to adjust to the plan and to be able to reference it back so that
Yeah.
it becomes sort of a living document and guiding through the process. And I think that when we're looking at a budget, whether it's, for this year or 2 years from now, to have that as a thought process of this is why we planned on this, it makes it easier to look at $400,000 for a park when we know that this is something that we've been building to, because we knew that it was going to need to be replaced in the next many years, than it is to see it come up out of the blue without any reference point. I think it makes it a lot easier
Fair
for
point,
us as
100%.
council to
Yes,
be
ma'am.
able to look at that.
No, I get that 100%, and that makes total sense. And that as we can get through.
Trying to keep us on track with that. That's scary.
Yeah, I mean, like when you talk about stormwater, I mean, yeah, we kind of joke, if you will, around the office that nobody has a stormwater issue till it starts raining, and then apparently everybody has a stormwater issue, right? Yeah,
And we need to have the money in there
I
in
would
order
say
to go off
the-
and
the-
correct these things.
yeah. Up until I guess it was last week, over the last 2 weeks, I would have told you that 99% of our stormwater problems or concerns are in traditional TKK, and then Forsythia happened. The list that was shown to y'all when I was out on medical leave after the storm in January, I would put money right now today. Forsythia was not on that list, you know. And then all of a sudden we find out, oh, there's pull grout in there. You know, there's tons of debris and dirt in there that took quite an effort to get that clear. And then we found out that, oh, it's undermined some of the driveways. It's undermined part of the road, right? So that part's been repaired, other than the concrete work and the asphalt work, just waiting on the weather to cooperate so that can get finished. But you're talking about my guess is probably a $50,000 expense that wasn't on anybody's radar a year ago.
Right.
Yeah, a year ago today, it wasn't on anybody's
Wouldn't
radar,
anticipate
right?
it for several years there over there. Probably.
Right. So,
Charlie,
but
the current equipment lease, getting back to stormwater,
yes, sir.
when's that up? Is it next year?
25-26 is the last payment.
Yes.
And what's the condition of their other dump trucks?
The other dump trucks right now are fine.
I mean, are they 20 years old, 10 years? Any idea?
I don't know the age of them off the top of my head right now, but I would
That's
say
a good question.
they've all been bought within the last 6-7 years.
The reason I ask is because I don't want to have to buy another dump truck next year.
Well,
Right.
that's
But
a
then
great
also
question. Oh,
the
yeah.
62K, if that's coming off, or basically, we did lease the
The grapple.
grapple
truck.
truck, it would basically replace that one.
Correct.
Charlie,
Yes,
don't we need to back out that 85,000 for that capital outlay?
That is the pole barn. Apologies, I left that one in there just because it was in stormwater. I didn't want to get it commingled and confuse things, but that is for that pole barn that we would be parking the grapple truck, the leaf trucks, the loaders that are all stormwater equipment. We would be putting those under that roof. That's why I'm showing it in stormwater. But yeah, I sent council a revenue projection for this year as far as revenues over expenditures. I think I got the deal Monday, I think it was. We could potentially pull the trigger on that this fiscal year if you wanted to.
Right.
And it frees up that $85,000. Now, granted, you'd be paying for it out of general fund, right? Which you're allowed to do. So we could zero that amount out if council said, yeah, let's go ahead and get that done now. It's a prefab structure. We could get it fairly quickly because there's no concrete work, there's no electrical work. That was the time-consuming process of the building that we had to replace that burned down. It's some gravel. We can't put concrete in that area because we've got a stormwater line that runs through there, a gas line, and Comporium lines that run through there. All that would have to be relocated.
So it's got to be impervious then.
So the recommendation is it's just gravel, and it's the roof, keeping the stuff out of the weather. You could very easily fund that out of general fund this fiscal year. We could add that to your agenda for your August 19th meeting. Pull the trigger on August 20th, and it goes away out of your stormwater fee. And that's another $85,000 that we would just show in that drainage maintenance material. Tom, to your point, 25-26 is when we would have a payment for both. Okay, but your ERUs are going to continue to grow every year by 100 to 100. Let's be conservative and call it 100 homes. Okay, so 100 homes times the 204, right, would be added to your revenues right? By the time you get there. So it doesn't make it tight, but you'll have that one bigger expense, probably $120,000, $130,000 in 25, 26. And then you would be back down to probably the $60,000, $65,000 after that.
So we budgeted for the building this year,
Correct.
so it's still in there.
It's, well, not the full 85, no, sir. But you got about 75, 70, 79,000.
But we could use that to pay.
You could use that plus,
Towards it.
yeah, to
Towards
go
it.
towards it, correct. And that savings there isn't reflected in the additional revenues, okay? So you've got that savings there. Ms. Miller, you brought up in your questions about the Parks and Rec capital outlay. There's a balance in there as well, right? That isn't anticipated being needed for anything between now and September 30th, right? So between those two capital outlays, you've got the money to be able to do this and be able to move forward.
I suggest we do the pole barn,
To do the
because we're going to do it anyway. So if it's in the budget now, let's do it this year.
And you take the 85 out.
Yeah. And do it
Increase
with the,
drainage maintenance. If you do the capital lease, now you got 500,000 plus to work with in drainage. I know Joey has a list. It's a really large list, but it's more than 500,000.
Right.
But it's a large list, okay? So we can take care of a lot of that. We have the capital lease. The rate right now is 4.25 with a 4-year capital lease. That's right now. Who knows what October, November brings us? But I called the bond advisor, and that's the capital lease rate now. It's 4.25. And we're getting 5.45 in the bank as interest income. So, but I think I like that idea of paying out this year.
What was the best guess on the estimates on the pole barn?
Well,
100.5?
we know we can obtain the prefab one for $85,000 turnkey. Actually, it's
We got to
it's-
bid it
it's-
though, right?
It's a little under. Well, not with doing it this way because this will be a sole source. If we're not stick building and things like that, buying that prefab unit would be a sole source, just like we did with the other maintenance building.
Think you buy a truck. or
It's like buying a
buy
kit,
the building.
right?
Yep.
Like buying a ticket.
With this one, we would. I let me look into that because the company that we bought it from, the building that we have now, built that, but we had to have other subs, if you will, to do the concrete work, to do the electrical work.
And we don't need that.
And we don't need those things. But let me double check on that.
So it won't have
Is-
electricity.
No,
I think you're
and
gonna,
it's
I
not
think you're
needed.
gonna need electricity.
Oh, I was gonna say.
We do need electricity?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, to hook the trucks up.
Well, that, you,
We
Charge
don't
you,
plug,
you,
those
you need
those
some
trucks don't
lights.
get plugged in.
They don't?
They got engine heaters on them. If they don't, we better get some.
You think?
Absolutely. If you've
You-
got a diesel truck like that and you don't have an engine heater, then you're taxing those engines way too much. Cold cranking them in the wintertime.
We don't have engine heaters on.
Every one
Other
of my
than
trucks has an engine
maybe
heater on
I
it.
don't have them on anything.
We don't have them on anything.
That's probably why we're gonna burn it through engines.
Well, in fairness, we haven't burned through engines. I mean, we run our trucks into
Yeah,
the
how many
ground.
engines have we replaced?
None that I'm aware of.
Right. Yeah. Come on, you're talking like you're from Jersey now.
I'm just saying, man. I run a business that runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So
I know.
you know, my stuff's got to be ready to go, just like the fire department and the PD.
To
So,
add electrical hookups to that probably wouldn't cost much.
No,
more.
you're talking maybe 3,500
because
bucks.
we could pull it from one of the two shops because it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
in between the maintenance building we replaced and the one that we've had forever.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be situated in between those two buildings. Pulling power from either one of those for some type of hookup. Honestly, that's something we've got.
What are you talking about for, Chris? Block heaters?
Engine block heaters.
Yeah. Okay.
Or a couple of lights, you know, because I mean, we get a call in the middle of the night and one of the lift stations is backed up. We got to take the pump truck and get it, you know.
Now,
gotta
the
need some
pump
lights.
truck's stored in the addition we did at the ops building.
So we're not going to have any kind of need to go into that at night at all.
Not for the
Shouldn't.
equipment we're putting in
Okay.
there, other than to get a
Shouldn't.
loader
Yeah, shouldn't.
and pull it out.
Right?
Right.
You could. You could.
Yeah.
You could.
Yeah, at least you're not tripping over
You have it
something.
if you need it.
Yeah.
That's just
Yeah.
so to keep the conversation moving forward, I would recommend that we do the 85,000 or the pole barn this year in the budget, finance the grapple truck, and then also keep the drainage maintenance material fund in there for the projects that they have. Essentially, we have a list of 10 items that are already listed that we know of and there's probably a couple of more that are in there. 65,000 probably is not enough, but we'll stick with that because that's what was recommended from the stormwater.
All right, so I just made it on the stormwater side. I just made that change that you'll see on your monitors there. That I zeroed out the 85,000. And I see Bob's squinting at the big screen, so let me make that a little bit bigger. And then added that up to the drainage maintenance material. That takes that to 340,093.
You gotta add the new truck, please.
Thoughts on that?
And the 250 for
Give me a
the,
quick calculation. Yeah, there would not be a payment in this fiscal year. Yeah.
It goes in arrears, it's in
Yeah.
arrears.
Yeah, so you wouldn't have an impact on this fiscal year. You know, the other thing that I want to point out, council, is we have 2 big stormwater projects that are out for bid right now. Those bids come in next week. I believe it's on the, Casey, is it the 6th? On the 9th. Okay, so that's next Friday.
Saguaro and Seba.
Saguaro and Seaboot. Okay. We have no idea what those 2 projects are going to cost us, but we know they're going to be expensive. Right now, in stormwater reserves, I'll call it, you've got $500,000. That's in addition to what you've got, give or take, that's in addition to what we still have remaining in drainage maintenance materials. All right. Either one of those 2 projects could come in at $500,000 or more, right?
Each.
Being able to have a reserve, or excuse me, a 540,000 in that drainage maintenance material, if we can't do them right now because of funds available, it gives us the ability to be able to do that in the fall. Yeah, as part of the new fiscal year, to be able to still get those tackled. Now, they could also come in at 100 grand each,
Right.
and we're good, right? So we'll know more next Friday when those bids come in. Yeah. So there's a little bit of uncertainty, especially as it relates to those, but. And Mayor, you're aware of this in your industry. And I may have even said this on Thursday, but whoever came up with the idea way back, 40-something years ago to start putting galvanized steel pipe underground, there was no forward thinking towards that. Now,
Probably sounded like a good idea at the time.
and it may have been all that was available back then.
It's cheaper.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Cheaper.
But yeah, all of our new neighborhoods, you've got the reinforced concrete pipe, RCP, things like that. They got a longer shelf life, a much, much longer shelf life. But being able to have that room allows us to not have to pick and choose which projects that we're going to tackle, which issues we're going to tackle through the course of the fiscal year, and be able to work towards building that plan that Carmen, you brought up, right? To be able to, okay, here's the priority order, and we're going to do this one and this one and this one and this one, because that's what those things cost. These are lower priority items, and we're going to shift those to a future year, right? And be able to work through it in a more methodical versus, whoop, there's a sinkhole. Now we've got to put all our efforts into that, and whoop, there's another sinkhole. Yeah. I will say with golf course taking on the issues on the course that are stormwater related, even though that pipe may originate at a street, the issue is on the golf course. With them taking those type things on, it definitely helps for sure. Absolutely helps.
So the stormwater drainage goes to 540 over 93, does it not?
Yep, that's what I got.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And capital lease.
I just want to,
250.
again,
Yes, sir.
caution us about taking too much from the golf course. We went from 250 to 350. We added 100 for the stormwater. We took 80 for the Glennon Center. And they got stuff they got to do. And if we kill the cash cow, that's, I'm not saying we're fine right now. We just got to
Absolutely
be
understand.
careful
Yep.
with this.
And the budget looks
Keep
good.
reaching in the piggy bank.
Right,
Right.
100%.
And then I know we got. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I was just going to mention, we talked about raising millage the other day,
Yes, sir.
and it's something that I don't think has been discussed is after 2022-23, we added $911,000 of revenue from the golf course, from the T-Cut franchise fee, and from interest.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's 10 mils. Right?
Yep.
So we didn't raise taxes, but we gained 10 mils in revenue. And then this year, we're at 1.2 million with the
12
381, the 550, and the 350. And so my point being, we keep hearing this thing, we got to raise taxes, we need more revenue, but we have a lot more revenue than we did. We went from 12.8 to 3.4 to 16.2, and now we're at 16.2 plus somewhere between 800 and another 1.5 million. I just want to get to that on record because it concerns me when we keep saying we don't have this revenue and we need to raise mills and we need to raise taxes, and we don't. We've raised revenue significantly every year for the last 5 years.
Well, we raised it 12 mils last year, so what the hell's 3 mils going to do for us?
That's my point. That's what
If we
is that?
if we raise
180
the tax
grand?
rate. Yeah.
But don't forget, our expenses have gone up too. The
Well, they
roads
have, and that's what we're
And
living
because
with.
of group insurance.
that's his
that,
point.
you know,
We're just
both have
spending it
gone
all.
up, you know. Well, it's because we have to spend it. I mean,
No,
it's there.
no, we don't.
Well,
There's a whole lot of things that we just put in here. We don't have to pay for.
well, this year, I'm talking about this year, in this budget. But our expenses during the year, group insurance went up 11.8%.
Yeah.
And of course, that
Hey,
raises, and
So Scott, to your point, you're absolutely right. We're showing $1.22 million in additional expenses, if you will. Actually, maybe more than that, because I think this is showing some of the adjustments. Yeah,
Right.
that would, so if I put Rundy,
Right.
just for sake of discussion right now, if I put the Rundy back in
1.5,
and I put the pickleball back in,
0.6.
and then 304,000 on deer, okay?
It's almost 2 million.
You're looking at $1.876 million. So I go back over to that sheet. You're right. Can we survive as a city without doing any of those things? 100% we can.
Yes, sir.
We can cut 100% of those requests out. Absolutely. Right? In conversations with some of y'all over the last couple months, we feel like from the residents that the expectation level is here. Okay? The budgets with these things and all this stuff is what our department heads have said it's going to take to meet the expectations that we feel like we hear throughout the year from our residents. Right? And we hear it a lot. Y'all hear some of it. We hear a lot of it as well. Right?
Mhm.
We're trying to meet that expectation of that, what do you call it, 5-star city, if you will, right? But if we're
City on the
okay
hill.
not being at this expectation level, and we're okay being here versus up there, we can cut all of that out. We can cut 100% of it out.
And I personally, I'm not suggesting we cut everything out. I'm just saying
Right.
Nor am I.
we need to be very conservative with the numbers, and also at the same time, my opinion is we need to be planning for the future, because we all know when these impact fee ends, we're in a world of hurt at some point.
But when we finish this budget now, I'm going to put it into the capital model plan, Tom, and maybe next week, I want you to come in.
Yeah.
I want you to review it one-on-one with me.
Yeah, I looked at the one.
Yeah, and
last
I'm
week from
going to
this
update
year.
it after this is done, and I can project now into the
That'd
next
be
10
great.
years.
Well, yeah, because
But
I
we'll
want
go over it.
to be able to do
Yeah.
the stuff we need,
Right.
including
Yeah.
TD and fire, and get to where we need to be.
Yeah,
I'm just
and
concerned about trying to do it all at once.
And Tom, I think speaking to that point, when Mayor Shepherd took office, right, we didn't have a lot of money in the bank in reserves. I mean, I've heard anything between 17,000 and 50,000 that was in reserves. Okay, so
That's
there
dangerous.
was a concerted effort over the 8 years that he was mayor that we've got to build that up. Yeah. So we didn't do a whole lot in the way of capital through that time. Couldn't afford to,
Right.
because we had to build up those reserves so that our money could start working for us, right? And I think by the time he left office, we were 3 million,
Couple of million, yeah.
right? So, which was outstanding, right? I mean, that's a big
We
jump.
We did raise taxes.
Well, one was under, as
Bob
Rodney was
Rundy.
going out, and then under Mayor Shepherd's first year. We
Back-
went from
back
83
there.
to 86 to 89, right? But we went to 89 in Mayor Shepherd's first year, right?
Right.
Haven't raised a millage since. But our taxes continue to increase.
No.
One because of growth, one because of assessments, right? They do reassessments every 5 years, right? Every year when we get the report from the state, we're basically eligible to raise taxes on average about 9 mills a year. Under Act 388, we can go back and recapture millage for 3 years. Any millage that we didn't take, okay? State law limits us on how much we can increase taxes. It's by the CPI and percent of population growth, right? I think this year it was
6.95.
6.95 mils
You saw that.
that we're eligible to increase. This budget is, we are not asking you for a millage increase, right? But Tom, to your point, if we need to bank money, right, there is a way to do it. Yeah, I ran some math earlier today on what a mill would, or what I think it was a mill or two. I think it was 1 mill on a $400,000 house. You're talking about $2.66 per month is what that impact would be. Again, that's on a $400,000 house, right? I think if you Google it, the average
of them
right
in
now is
TK?
what, 437, I think, according to the interwebs out there. Carmen, this is your world. I see houses being sold for a lot more than that.
Right.
You know, so I get it. It's going to have a bigger impact
So
on.
it's twice that. It's still only $5 a month.
Right.
That's 1
So
mil though.
1 mil.
1 mil, and how much does that bring to the city?
a little over
$100,000.
$100,000. Mhm.
Which
Right. Now,
Nothing.
but that's today. Every year the value of a mill increases.
Mhm.
Okay, based on our assessed value as a city.
Mhm.
Right. So every year that $100,000 gets a little more, gets a little more, gets a little more. Right. As far as its value. So
When I took office, it was 60.
there you go.
That's 2.5 years.
There you go. So
so the mills we're getting have significantly went up.
yeah, the value of
So
them.
Yeah.
that's my point.
Yes.
That plus all these $1 million in fees we've collected a lot more money than we did 3 years ago.
Correct.
Yeah, here we are asking for more.
I think that for me, the I guess the plan in the way that I would like to see this approach is that I don't think that the ask to increase payroll or increase the number of people in order to serve our city is out of line. What I think needs to happen though is that we need to have it so that it's planned based on forecasting of the need to come to.
Yeah, we know what growth's
you know,
going to look like
yeah.
for 3 or 4 years.
for to
Mhm.
come to this specific budget and to say that we need 3 additional police, 3 additional firemen, additional staff, for admin, without understanding what changed from last year to this year to need that much of a jump in personnel. It's hard for me to say I'm all in on saying yes to it at this point. I'm not saying that it's not needed as we grow and as we need to serve the city.
Understood.
I'm saying that I need to see it with an understanding of the why.
Is my commitment to you guys
So would
is
you like one of the chiefs to come up and?
is we
Mr.
go
Watt?
through. Well, hang tight if you can.
Yeah, we went through that.
My commitment to council is as we go through this fall, I will absolutely work through that with staff. What are your staff projections, staff needs, and vision over the next 5 years? Right? What do you see as those needs over the next 5 years? And my commitment to council is as we move through this fall, I will get you that report. I will get you that report before year end,
So-
before calendar year end. That
I
we will
appreciate
absolutely
that.
take that on.
If I may, just to caveat on what Councilman Miller said, we think in 2 to 3 years, Wendell Woods will be built out. Right? Is that
Yeah.
fair?
Yeah.
2 to 3 years.
2 to 3 years, Wendell Woods should be
and
complete.
3 to 5 years, Main Street. If we're
I
going-
would say
if it's even
because
going
of the
anywhere?
commercial and everything else, you're probably closer to that 7-year mark.
Okay. Is
before
that even
Main
going
Street is-
anywhere?
Yes, we actually got an update last week.
Yesterday.
They're doing a little bit of redesign on I'll say the western side, on the Stonecrest side, on
Mhm.
that commercial piece.
Okay.
So,
So-
and that was based
So
on
wheels are still moving. is
Yes,
what
sir.
I'm asking. Okay.
Absolutely. Yep.
And
On
then
that
what's the
and
other
on
project
Lakewood.
on Dam Road?
Lakewood.
River.
It's
Lakewood.
Lakewood.
Thank you,
Mhm.
Lakewood.
Yes, sir.
So-
So they're still moving forward with that and working through the engineering and all that. Yes,
So
sir.
we're 2 to 7 years out on pretty much being at capacity.
I would say based on what's in the pipeline right now, you're probably, I'm going to say 6 to 8 years
Okay.
on build out
So
and probably closer to the 8.
so to Carmen's comment, that's what I would be interested in hearing with stormwater, fire, PD,
Mm-hmm.
all of that. Like, let's look at that. Like,
Absolutely.
What does growth look like?
And we will
over that
include
8
that.
years.
We will include that in our report that I will work on through this fall with staff.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we
100%.
can project,
Yes, sir.
if we can project, okay, as it's coming online, if we do, and again, this would be up to the chiefs. I don't know if one makes a difference, or you have to have two, or I know with the fire you need a shift. I'm just throwing stuff out there, but get the projection. So okay, listen, we need one fire,
There's-
2 fire, 1 PD this year. Next year we need 2 PD, 1 fire, and then we need an admin here, and we need 2 public works here over the course of the 5 to 8 years. We can then build that into the projection,
Mm-hmm.
and make sure we can cover it all.
I agree.
And I think that's something we can really focus on for next year. That right now, both chiefs have presented exactly what they were looking for and why they would need those things. I trust the chiefs and the heads of the departments for the personnel that they're requesting at this time. I don't want to be a council that has to sit there and play catch up and do that. Again, we want to be proactive and make sure that we have the pieces in place when these things come online.
So just an example, Chief Crosby, if you could come up, please, and just help me with a timeline here. Because I can speak to it from a maintenance person standpoint because I lived it for many years here. When we hire a new maintenance guy, you're easily 12 months into their career before that person can really just go out on their own and be efficient. All right. So Chief Crosby, now he's got the lapel. Just make sure you unmute. So Chief, my question to you. You got it? Okay. If not, just speak loudly and Scott, keep your microphone on. Whichever's easiest. So when we hire a brand new uncertified officer, and I know you've had some good fortunes here recently where they had at least some certifications.
Yes, sir.
As you made the hire, right?
Yes, sir.
We hire a brand new uncertified officer from the day we hire them until the day that, not just out of FTO, but to the day where they're functioning on their own at a efficient, high capacity. What do you say is that timeline, give or take?
So the day to complete the FTO program, we're looking at 6 to 7 months best to the day that they're sufficient and kind of learn the program, about a year best.
Okay, so about the same time frame as a maintenance guy. Yeah, I mean, you think about you're brand new, and we're training you because you're a good fit for the team, and we tell you to go to Tulagi. First question out of your mouth is, where is that? Right?
Yes, it's a great thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, it's why we have been so selective over the last, I'll say, year and a half on our hires. Is we're not looking for somebody that knows how to do 100% of the job right now on day one. We're looking for that body that they're going to be a good fit for the team and a good fit for the culture, and we'll teach them what they need to know. Because when we lose them, right? So if I lose a guy tomorrow, it's a month and a half to 2 months before I've got a replacement in. And then it's another year from that to where Joey, Tim, whoever can call that person and say, hey, I need you to go over to such and such street and take care of X, where they can just go and do, where they start to get that initiative, if you will. Hey, I saw this and I know we need to do this, so I'm going to go ahead and add that to the list, or I'm going to go ahead and get taken care of that. So that 12 months, if it's replacing somebody that left, you're really 14 months at that point, right? But from an officer standpoint, speaking to what Brian, what you were just saying, to be able to add, whether it's 2, whether it's 3 officers now, by the time we get them full rolling, Wendell Woods has got residents living in it, right? River Falls has got residents living in it. That growth we're on the cusp of right now, we're going to have residents living in those homes. So trying to stay ahead, if you will. Now, Chief, you said the other night your total increase of headcount that you're projecting, the way things sit right now, 8? Was that the right number?
That's what the numbers say from ICMA, FBI, and all those. Until our call volume increases, that would be unrealistic for
Okay.
us. we do the 3 with the new growth we got, you're only talking about a couple more. But I think there's two major points to talk about. Ms. Miller, I think you've got a great point, and you say we need to forecast ahead. It's exactly what we've done for you. For the last numerous tenures that have come through, he's just told you that there's been no increases in personnel. We're already so far behind that now we're just playing catch up. If we wait until Wendell Woods, Main Street, everything else, we're just still playing catch up again. So at what time are we going to take and hire that big number and say, I'm going to give you 8, I'm going to give you 7, I'm going to give you this? So that's what you got the projections from. And I'm speaking for me, and I know from Chief Safety because we've talked about budgeting and we spent a lot of time together on this. Point number 2, I think there's something missing in the conversation here tonight. We have spent a considerable amount of time talking about what the citizens need, what you're looking for, but we have spent a considerable amount of time changing the culture in this city to have a workforce that addresses the needs of our people as well. If we continue kicking this can down the road and I continue to have just a patrol unit and that's it, I will guarantee you I will have additional folks that leave. Officers these days, and even in my generation, do not want to come on an organization and just be a police officer. They don't want to come on the fire department and just be a firefighter. They're looking for ways they can advance, plant roots, and grow within the organization. That's why you're seeing the organizations become not flat, but they're expanding out. The community team, the SRO units, the traffic units. We're trying to address the needs of the community, address the needs of our people, and give them opportunities both to grow. But as he said, and I think it's very important, you got those projections from us this year as the needs because of what's been done in the past, because we have not grown. And so now it's catching up to us I've got the email where a year ago, this body was fine with the resources that I was putting at Windjammer Park. This year, I got told again, no, increase what you're doing. And so we're having to adjust the services and the resources that we got. And I get it based upon what the needs of our community are. But if we don't have the bodies to do it, I can't give those resources. That's all for me.
So
I would just, yeah, I don't even want to disagree.
We just asked for enforcement.
Well, I respectfully would disagree because I got the email.
But I know what I asked for.
I got the email that says last year that you had enough bodies, enough people, enough enforcement, and the response was directly from you that said, you're good. Matter of fact, you're giving too much time to Windjammer Park. And this year it was give more time to Windjammer Park. And I'm not disagreeing with you saying the time is not warranted. My commitment has always been to you that I'm going to do strategic-based policing based on what the needs are. More people at the park, more enforcement's coming in, more people's coming in. But if our needs are changing and we need more people to address Windjammer Park, the other places, address traffic concerns, community needs, business watch needs, again, you've only added 2 police officers in 10 years.
So how many calls for service have we had that you couldn't meet?
That happens weekly to where we have calls for service waiting.
Calls for service we can't meet?
We got calls for service that we're telling people to wait till we get an officer free.
And how long does that take?
It depends what happens. If an officer's tied up on 160 and they're in a car wreck and they have 2 officers tied up for a while, then it takes a while. We have a call like we had the incident the other day, a major call. I had to call the whole shift and it took 45 minutes for the entire shift to come in that didn't have officers free. It's,
A lot less time than the call takes in Charlotte Mecklenburg.
and you know what? But our citizens have a higher expectation that we're going to be there too. And again, y'all, I'm not trying to argue, and I'm not trying to be defensive. You've asked me for my opinions as chief of police for 28 years with the education that I have. I presented to you what I thought we need. Ultimately, if you decide that I don't get that and my department doesn't get that, I respect your decision. Business is business and personal is personal. This is business. And I respect your opinions, but I'm just providing you why, as your chief of police, I feel like we need what we need.
So, counsel, and I definitely don't want any of y'all to feel like I'm rushing y'all, but I want to try to see if we can move the ball forward, if you will. All right. As
Well,
I can go.
well,
I
I was
Sure.
gonna say,
Yeah.
Sorry,
Brian's
go
gone, Scott's gone, so go ahead, Tom.
say I like what Scott said. I would make one caveat, potential change to that with Scott.
Tell me what I sent.
Yeah, what you mentioned earlier and what you
Okay.
sent. Yeah, the with the PD, right? I would say leave it up to chief. So, do you want a dispatcher or an officer? First year,
Fair
and
enough.
we could do another one next year potentially.
Right, that gives
Um,
opportunity for growth.
And whatever's more important for him, he gets.
So
Right,
it's
that's fair.
so what you're saying is one or the other,
Right.
either a dispatcher or an officer.
I would support
So
that.
just a head count of one in PD is what
With
you're saying.
with again with the plan, I think to keep increasing instead of pulling the band-aid off this year with all four of them. We
Our
step to it.
growth in the city is going to be annual, so our growth in headcount should probably be annual.
So what you're saying, Tom, is to take and have, you can either do 2 officers and no dispatch, or 1 dispatch and 1 officer.
No,
No.
he's saying
No,
one.
he said
headcount.
just
one
one
headcount.
total.
one body. And he can
Just
pick
one.
it is.
Either a dispatcher or an officer, correct?
Right.
Okay. So those are going to come with obviously 2 different amounts.
Right. And we can.
Right.
And I'm fine either way. Yeah. But
So-
however that breaks out, I'm
Okay.
fine. Whatever chief. I'm just saying it's a suggestion because he knows best what would be most important for him at this time. You know, and again, I would, as far as the fire department, I just wanted to throw out there. I don't know how it breaks out, but we got to ask for 3, which is like 201,000, but we have an overtime of 229,000. As we go forward, how does that overtime disappear?
So they've got scheduled overtime.
Well, I know that's what I'm saying. These
So
new
adding
firefighters
3,
would replace them.
that's adding 1 per existing shift to a.
Oh, I thought it brought a new shift now.
No, sir. No,
So
sir.
overtime stays there.
Shift
Yes.
is like 8, right?
Well, between the 2 houses, it would take it to 8.
Shift, I think, is 6 or 8. people.
Okay, so I thought there would be
So
a
right
reduction
now,
in overtime.
And Chief Hasty, if you can come up, since we're talking about fire, I'm pretty sure right now we've got 4 at one house and 3 at the other. So a total of 7 on a shift. Is that correct, Chief? Yeah. So
Okay.
these 3 would put us at 4 and 4 per shift to completely eliminate. And as Chief stated the other night, that puts you in compliance with the NFPA standards. It's NFPA, correct? From there, to be able to eliminate the scheduled overtime, you're talking about a 4th shift. So you're talking, that would be 8 more on top of the, did I do that math right? Yeah. It would be 8 more in addition to those 3 so that that shift still had 4 and 4, 4 at each house.
How does the overtime play?
So Chief, go ahead. You got the overtime down pat.
Yeah, I do. So here's the thing. So it won't be 4 and 4. It'll be 3, 3 and 2. 3 on the ladder, 3 on the engine at 2, and 2 on the engine at 1.
And I was just speaking station wise, not, yeah.
Just to help us to meet. So it'll be 5. Actually, be 5 at station 1 and 3 at station 2, which helps us to meet our ISO. Okay, we talked about that the other day. In FPA, and this came back from the academy yesterday. OSHA is starting to drive some mandates through NFPA. Thank you, Chad. That's okay. We have to hire additional staff to fill that void. The less expensive way to do that is to pay the firefighter for the overtime, because the salary of the overtime piece for the firefighter is much cheaper than paying salary, benefits, retirement, and everything else for the additional firefighters we would have to hire to cover that gap.
Assumption that the 3 new hires would fill the extra shift and you wouldn't need the
Yeah,
overtime.
they won't. So, and to go back to that, what it's doing is we're going to split our trucks basically, and go down to 3 on the ladder, 2 on the engine at 1, which puts that truck in service, which helps us to meet the ISO requirement that they've given us. And you asked about the timing piece of that. This isn't a brand new thing. So ISO comes and visits us every 5 years, and they look at staffing, they look at response models, they look at mutual aid. We talked about mutual aid the other night. The great thing about mutual aid is it's there. Okay, sometimes mutual aid's not there. You know, if they're out on other calls, we don't have the resources coming to us. We got to handle it with what we've got. And you know, safety of our people is number one for me. And the bodies on the trucks lead to safety overall, first and foremost. But the staffing piece, the 3 that we asked for, is so we can meet that ISO number and keep our number. So right now we're a 2. We were very close. If we had not gotten extra credit points from being a fire safe city, we would have fallen to a 3.
What happens if we go to 3?
Our insurance goes up for the homeowners. Yeah. Yeah.
It hits the
It's
commercial
exponential. It's
property insurance
exponential.
more than the residential, but it
Yeah.
impacts both.
Residential moves at a much smaller rate. You know, and like I shared with you the other night, the $80 number is the number I got from our insurance agent.
That's right.
And, you know, that's the number I got from our agent. So everybody's going to be different based on the value of the home and the threat or, you know, potential loss you may have as an insured. So it's going to be different for everybody. Commercial sees a much more larger impact as we move up and down that ISO range. So, but the 3 is not something that's new. August 22 is when we were evaluated. We got our scores in November of 22, and this has been on the horizon. We need to put this engine in service because we got no ladder credit, or I won't say we got none. We got very little ladder credit because we're running that ladder as an engine because we didn't have a second engine out. We've got to have 2 engines and a ladder out every time we go to a structural response in our area. And that was what the inspector told us when he came. So if we don't do that, it could potentially impact us.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Last year's budget, we did, across the board with all staff, we did a big pay correction,
Mhm.
based on the study that we did.
2 years ago.
It's been a
Yes.
couple years, yeah.
Okay, 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
We've done a COLA, and last Thursday, we talked about a correction with PD because of what's going on around the environment,
Right.
right?
With fire.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay, pardon me?
With fire.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, with fire. Okay with all that. But correct me if I'm wrong, what I thought I heard you say before you got up was you weren't asking for new staff.
No, I said
And
I'm asking for staff, but my commitment was to try and move our staff that we've got forward to prevent losing staff. And, you know, so we've had vacancies, and I'll share with you, we've had vacancies all year. We lost a firefighter. We've been about 6 months where we've had a vacancy. Part of that's because we're having trouble finding people, which goes back to the 1,200
I remember you
short
saying you had
across the
very
state.
few applicants.
Yeah, and they're hard to find. It's hard to find trained applicants. We have some
I bet.
applicants, but we have to, just like the PD, we have to wait till there's an opening in recruit school for us to get that person in. So, you know, that gap in time, it's hard to find qualified, and we're very blessed that we've got a job offer out now to someone that's very qualified. That person's coming to us with fire certs. They don't have their EMT. So for 4 months, we've got to send them to EMT school. And, you know, so it just takes that length of time to get the firefighter up to speed and on
Sure.
the trucks. And I'll share with you, we've been blessed. So part of that, the EMT piece, we've sent 8 firefighters to EMT class in the last 2 years for free. It's $1,800 a person to send them to EMT. We did that through a grant through the Apprenticeship of Carolina. So we're doing everything we can on the background to lessen the impact on the taxpayer I live here just like you guys do.
Right.
You know, do I want taxes to go up? Well, no, not really. But you know what? I recognize that we've got to do what we can to help that along. And sometimes we just have to realize what do we have to do to make it, keep us to where we are and make us a safe city.
Fair enough. Thank you.
So, Carmen, what are your thoughts? So we've heard from three. What are your thoughts on?
It's hard because this is your first go around, and you want to make sure that you're really looking through and considering all the different options. I'm with Scott to a point on the reducing of the requests for staff. I do think that for the police side of it, I am hearing what Chief Crosby's saying as far as how his staff hasn't grown in the last 10 years. And please correct me if I'm not remembering something right in what was said, but I think what he said was 10 years.
2 people over 10 years.
2 people over 10 years. So I think that I would consider an addition of 2, whether that's your dispatcher and a police,
Oh, so
or
one or the other.
not one or the other, but
Right.
2
Two
total.
Whether it's 2 officers or a dispatcher. And an officer.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I would support that.
And then as far as the crosswalk repairs, the shoreline, the tree removal, those I'm good with. I do want to go back to that $550 interest fee, because I agreed with Tom on finding a way of removing that from the budget, because I think that gives us a really good opportunity to plan towards that impact fee, that future impact fee reduction. And then the $100,000 for pickleball coming from the impact fees, because that is part of what that is scheduled to be there for. As far as the playground, I would love to be able to do more than that, and I want to talk about that. If $75,000 is what can fit into this budget, because that's what's left. I would like to see a focus on what our amenities and what the infrastructure for what we have there looks like, and have a plan like Scott. I think Scott, you had said that, have a forward plan on what that looks like. I'm not sure what you can do at Rundy specifically for that money. I did go through all of the parks over the weekend, and there are some small things that can be done, fences that can be fixed, the mulch being turned into the rubberized mulch instead of the clippings. So I think that there's ways to improve that are not costly, that would give a little bit of a facelift to those parks. The big one that I saw was over at the beach club. That whole park area there seems like it's needing some good care with the walkways that are falling into the water by the pool.
The walkways falling into the water.
There are walkways that literally, to get down to the sand, you have to jump about 1.5 feet because
So we can't do anything there because all of that's below the 570 crossing.
but
Like, we
how do
can
you-
remove it, but we
Well,
can't
and
add to it.
I guess maybe that's what I'm saying. It's like, I know that there's certain things we can't do because it's Duke, but I'm sure that there's also conversations that we can have with Duke about improvements, and we can have approvals, and we can work on that. It
Sure, we
can't
can have
just
the
be
conversations.
it can't be just be left to fall into the water. So, but having said all that, that's where I'm at. And then the only one that I think, as far as I guess I've answered the question about personnel.
So you didn't say anything about deer.
Oh, the deer.
Opinion on
The deer would come out of just our regular general fund.
And how much?
304,000.
Out of operational? Is that
No.
is that what I'm hearing, or out of reserves? Out of operations?
That's what I suggested.
Yeah. Because if we're taking out all of the other items.
So if you'll look at your monitor, I just
Mhm.
want to make sure I'm capturing what you're
Yeah,
saying.
capture what I'm saying.
So I've got one in admin, HR, and chief, not speaking for you, but one patrol, one dispatch, just for the sake of conversation, 3 fire. Your,
I don't know about the 3 fire yet.
Okay.
That, no HR.
okay, so no HR,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Fire, is that 3 or is that 0?
1.
1, okay? Does that look accurate?
On the first section, but then on the second section, we've got to take out the police cars, except for
I left the 1 plus the replacement for the,
Okay, gotcha.
Yes, if we had an
Yeah.
officer, that's right.
Okay,
yep,
What's
so
the turnout gear?
turnout gear for 1, the bucket
Oh,
truck,
okay, that's
Yep.
for one
Yeah.
firefighter.
the radios,
mm-hmm,
So that's all 7 radios.
crosswalk, windjammer,
And-
Grundy,
Pickleball's funded differently, right?
yeah, pickleballs, yeah,
In your scenario.
mm-hmm,
What do you have for parks?
75.
75. So based on that, with using, with being able to use interest earnings, you're $334,159 to the good. Without using it, you're $215,841 in the hole.
Without using what, Charlie?
The interest earnings.
Okay.
So if I reduce your revenues by $550,000,
We have to keep the 550 in.
We don't have to spend it though.
But no, you're right. We have to put it there. We have
Right.
to put it there.
Yeah.
I'd rather invest it in the bank.
Yeah, that's what I want to do.
It has to be realized, right? It has to be realized.
And I know we'll talk about paying down bonds, but that's next week's discussion. That's next week's discussion.
Yeah.
so assuming that we're not spending the $550,000, that's your bottom box, and you're $215,841 in the hole.
When you did the one that Scott projected out, we weren't in the hole. What was the difference?
Deer management came out of the general fund.
No, Scott
No,
said the general
No,
fund.
there was no
I had no
staff.
PD,
there
no
was,
fire.
There was no PD.
You had a dispatcher.
No
It was,
dispatcher.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
all of this was 0.
So
that
the
was
difference is the
0.
one, the difference in that is the 1 staff for PD and 1 staff for fire.
He had 1 dispatcher, nobody
their
for
equipment.
fire, nobody in admin. That goes to 0. And Scott, I believe, based on your comments, the rest of that is accurate.
Yes, sir.
And at that point, you're $27,681 to the good. That doesn't
So do you
make me feel good from a reserve standpoint as
Right.
we go. I mean, we're forecasting here in basically August for what that 12 months is going to look like and what's going to happen. Yeah. I think I shared this the other night. Every time I start the budget process with staff, I'm looking for anywhere between $150,000 and $200,000 in operational contingency.
But don't we have that? We got the reserve. I mean, it's got $1 million. Can always pull it out if emergency, right?
So my question would be,
Free
what would be the difference in
Because you want to keep
pulling it out of
Yes.
using the interest revenue, the interest income versus pulling it out of reserves? I don't
Well, it's
understand
not
the
sitting
difference.
there to spend for no reason.
Well, keep in mind, we're not pulling on day one $550,000 out of reserves.
No, I
Right.
get that. I'm saying if there's an emergency, though, you could pull out 50 grand. If you,
One of the, we have, there's 2 that I know of. One in Public Works, the 75,000 that hasn't been used.
Mm-hmm.
And then
About
the,
34,000 in Parks and Rec, give or
and
take,
104,000. Is that what you said?
in total.
In total.
Yeah, you get about 34,000 in Parks and Rec and about 76,000, I believe.
I thought Parks and Rec was higher than that.
Can I ask a dumb question?
no dumb questions, guy.
Kind of feel dumb asking it though.
Well, that was
Hold
part of
that
the
thought, Bob.
conversation.
Because I get to go.
So
in a minute.
for $27,000,
I'm gonna get to go in a minute.
On my
So
scenario,
hold that thought.
Let's see.
but we go with Carmen's
Follow-up
scenario.
questions.
Add an additional.
I'm pulling it up now,
And we're
Carmen.
down
We're
on the
underwater
screens.
200, right? So where do we come up
So
with that?
on Parks and Rec,
Leave the interest
let me
money
get
in
there, one
Half of
second.
it.
So Parks and Rec, you've got,
or the reserve from this year?
So that goes reserve.
Okay.
So in Parks and Rec.
Sorry, we're sidebarring here.
no,
I'll,
no
I'll share
worries.
that with you. in a
You've
second.
got $34,707.18 remaining in capital outlay. And in Public Works, you have $75,197.
We were just saying, and correct me if I'm wrong though, if we funded everything, we can't. We don't have enough money.
That's correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure that,
Yes.
because I know that's been pitched.
If-
We
if-
don't have
if-
the money.
No.
Right. Not in the budget. yeah.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
So,
181 down, I think,
so let me,
without the.
I'll do that in a minute. All right. So I'm going to reset
But,
this.
so I'd like to
Money.
Go ahead.
just make a statement real quick. So we have the department heads who are here requesting personnel for their departments for personnel that haven't been hired over the last couple of years. You know, the example 2 for PD over the last 10 years, and we've grown double the size of the city.
No, we
And
haven't.
in 10 years? Yeah.
10 years?
We've doubled. Absolutely, we've doubled in 10 years. So,
No.
oh,
no, we
okay,
haven't.
so we've grown to 50%, 75%, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
But we are catching up. We need to get people
Not double in
hired.
10 years.
2007, we were 4620. Now we're 14105.
So we got
17 years.
17 years.
Yeah, that's 17.
yep. So going to that point, but we are for the council. We are focusing on the city and we're guiding the city to exactly what they need to do. And the departments are giving us an opportunity to say, hey, can you guys hire these people because this is what we need. But we're saying, no, you don't need that right now. We'll focus on that later on. But we're going to go off and spend over $300,000 on deer. Like that's, to me, that's a kick in our team's face. And I don't want to sit there and do that. I want to sit there and advocate for our department heads and for our city and the staff to focus on what they need at this point.
And respectfully, Brian, you're saying focus on the city and what they need. This is what the residents want. They want the deer gone.
Right.
They want something done with
We're the
deer.
safest city in
And
South
so-
Carolina.
We're the
do
safest
nothing.
city.
So in my opinion,
So, but
We don't
but
need
we're
more
not
police.
saying that we don't need to spend that, but
we
we're
get deer pissing people off every day.
we're
Not
nickel and diming the city, but we're not nickel and diming the deer. So if there's a way to pay for it, let's focus on paying for the personnel in our budget. And if there's something we can do for the deer, let's pull it out of our reserves. If we have the money there to go off and pay for it that way, instead of putting it in the budget, focus on the city and the staff. That's what I'm saying.
And I respect that. I do. I just, me personally, I don't know how we spend every dime we have right now.
and
Knowing,
then some.
Then some.
An extra 1.2 yet last year.
Right. Knowing long-term, we could have financial issues.
Right.
If we hire all these people
That
today.
faucet's going to shut off in 5 years.
Yeah, and
Understood. But we're going to look at Main Street TK coming online. We're going to have
If it comes online.
It's going to come online. So,
Right.
but we're going to have the commercial base, the commercial revenue that's going to be coming in to hopefully offset that impact fee. And I think we're worrying about stuff that's happening 7-10 years down
Well,
the
that's our
road.
job.
Where I understand that part. But we're not going to be in council in 7 or 10 years, respectfully. You know, I'm not. But I want to focus on where we're at right now. We have a really good budget. We have a really good reserves. We can focus on this for our city. I don't want to sit there and work and focus on doom and gloom for what's happening down the road when we can handle what we can take care of right now and focus on that later on.
I would just say respectfully, if previous councils had done what we're doing, we wouldn't be in this situation right now. The Catawba Park, the 5 other bonds, we are paying.
Yep.
Everything was kicked down the road, and now it's come
Right. We're
home to
responsible
roost.
for
And
paying
we're-
for it now.
I'm just saying, I'm trying to figure out a way to maintain what we have, do what we can to help the department heads, at the same time plan for the future. And I don't know if we can do all of it. Is my point. Yeah. So I respect it. I totally respect what you're saying, Brian. I just personally, I think we got to do a little planning for the future at the same time.
Understood. I wanted to get that out there to
Absolutely.
make sure we focus on that. Or I wanted to get that out there. Not say that.
I get where you're coming from. 100% understand. I ain't mad at you for it. You know, I get where you're coming from. I don't see the need. I don't see the need for 3 new police officers when we are a residential city. We're not Rock Hill with all the commercial and hotels and everything that they have. We're not Fort Mill that has all those restaurants and commercial and hotels. We're not Lancaster. You know, I understand the study that Chief Crosby brought that says we need 8 more police officers based on that study, but we're not those cities.
No.
And those cities aren't anywhere near as safe as our cities. They don't they need much more law enforcement than we do because we don't have what they have. Thank God we don't. But I'm okay supporting Councilman Miller's recommendation of giving Chief Crosby the flexibility to put 2 new staff members on at his discretion, whether that's dispatch and PD or dispatching officers or 2 officers. I would support that. My concern is this: if we're only 27,000 to the good on my recommendation, and we add a firefighter and another police officer, we're upside down by 200 grand. Where's that come from?
That's with removing the use of that 550,000 interest fees, right?
And that's not even meeting the request.
So where are we at? Mayor?
So I've reset back to original. So Mayor,
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
your
So-
thoughts?
Tell me a little bit about the HR specialist. Have we explored a part-time or maybe somebody in-house that could fill that position?
Based on my conversation and the supporting documentation that Dora provided with me, in-house, there's potentially one person that could do some of it. I don't know what kind of applicants we would get for part-time, just to be quite honest, if any, especially with any type of experience whatsoever. So I don't think part-time is the way to go or would work, but could somebody on staff assist and pick up some of that load? I mean, yeah, but to what consistency? I think it's going to depend on the week, with the other duties that person has.
Has that option been presented?
Yes, sir.
Have we defined that position?
Have we defined what position?
What that position, what's needed for that position?
Yes, sir. We have a job description.
Okay.
We do. Yes, sir.
That would help the HR succession.
That's the other.
Yeah.
other
We
thing.
don't have backup to that.
We do not
We've
have.
increased it, well, employees,
We
we're up to
gotta have somebody
125
that
employees
can-
right now.
You gotta have somebody to step
130.
in there and
Yeah, and,
you know?
and as I'm getting older and Dora's getting older, succession is important right now.
Dora doesn't get older.
She's getting older. But
She just
she's
gets more
very
experience.
she's very busy, and things have changed in the HR game.
Absolutely.
And you know that, right? Yeah. I propose that I'd like to see that happen. Even accounting could use a little bit of that help too. That HR person could help us with the backup.
So my deal would be keep the HR specialist.
Okay.
Two officers,
Okay.
whether one dispatch, one officer,
Okay. So one or one.
either.
Okay. So total of two.
That,
whether
that's
it's
up
two
to
patrol, one
chief if he
dispatch.
wants to put 2 patrol
So,
officers on.
Right now, just show it as 1 and 1 for purposes of this conversation.
Well, if you show it at 1 and 1, the problem is you're going to be upside down on your patrol vehicle and uniform equipment. So
Well,
let's just put it at 2 officers.
Okay.
That'd
Well,
be
I
on
mean,
the
I can
high
change
side.
that one, but okay.
That'd be on the high side because if chief if he chooses to go with a dispatcher, then you don't have all that stuff.
Right. I mean,
Right. So,
dispatcher's less
There could
expensive
be
than a
there
patrol
could be
officer.
some foul money right there.
A dispatcher is definitely less expensive than a patrol officer.
Yes.
100%.
But I'm again, I'll support you.
I'm just trying to get through it.
Let him
Right,
use
quick.
his discretion on
Yeah.
the 2.
Yep,
right?
that's where I'm at. So could we find a little money if he
Rock
does
on.
a dispatch? So there's a placeholder there if we
Okay.
do the 2 patrol officers. And then I don't see how we don't get by with 3 firefighters.
Okay.
Um,
So you're saying
All
the
right.
3 firefighters stay in?
our ISO training and that kind of thing that we've got, and I mean we got to maintain our ISO status.
Okay.
So take out the Rundy Playground. Take out the removal of the trees at Windward. Take out the pickleball.
Can I interrupt 1 second? Is everybody on board with funding pickleball through Parks and Rec impact fees?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
so I'm not going to go back and put the $100,000 in here.
All right.
That's going to be the plan
Yeah,
there.
I
Okay.
just-
Just want to make sure we're all on the same.
And
Correct.
then,
Yep.
and fund the deer from, general fund. It's something that, I know that I don't know that we need to be spending $300,000 for deer. I know that that's a lot of deer.
We,
I hate
and
it
again, we use Dr. Dina Cola's quote based on sterilizing 250.
And,
So
and
we'll need direction in this, and I know Casey
Mhm.
sent y'all your draft agenda, but
I know it's
we're
a
going to have to
placeholder.
get a vote of council on which way
a
we're
placeholder.
going
I don't know
on
that,
that at your August meeting.
I don't know that he gets 250 sterilized. He may be able to make it rain, and
I think one important
get 'em-
thing to remember is he's not constricted by a time frame on
Right.
sterilization like you are on culling.
I get it, but there
So
was
he doesn't
also
have
the
to be
numbers.
cut it off at March 1st or
There's
whatever.
also
that is.
numbers at the council meeting to where if we did 150
Okay.
sterilizations and we do 150 culling, that in 5 years, we've got 492 deer.
That's if we have 1,000.
That's if we got 1,000, which Dean Nicola said he would, what was it, eat his hat? He would eat his hat if we had over 1,000.
Put some
I have
syrup on
salt.
that hat.
I'll bring the hot sauce.
But don't forget,
So on
this is
deer
not a,
management, you're saying
but
200,000?
I'd say let's don't go over 200,000 for the deer management
Okay.
is what I would say, and pull that out of reserves.
Oh.
Yeah,
So if we're going to pull that out of reserves, then I'm going to zero that dollar out.
but that's where I'm at with deer.
the
know,
deer,
I get it.
that's just not 1 year. It's going to be 3-4 years.
Oh, it's going to be 5 years at
Give or
least.
take, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be a 5-year commitment.
So,
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Mayor, based on what the mayor has said, that puts you with using your interest income at $409,942 to the good, which, as y'all saw in my email yesterday, and is what has historically happened over the years. That number's probably light by $150,000, $200,000 that will actually happen.
Be able to realize.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I would love for us to be fully staffed for 12 months. We will never, ever be fully staffed for 12 months. It just will not happen. Even with the new headcount, that's assuming that they are here on the very first payroll of October, right? Which isn't going to happen, right?
Where does that put us on that lower number?
On the lower number, that puts you at $140,058 in the hole.
And that's pulling your money out of reserve.
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
And pickleball out of impact fees, nothing with Rundy Playground, shoreline management and crosswalk repairs.
The other thing, Charlie, that I would, I get that those crosswalks, the crosswalk repair, if the state owns that road
Mm-hmm.
and we've had to battle so hard to get any kind of right of way with that,
Mm-hmm.
how is it our responsibility to go into TKK Drive, with it being a state-owned road, and us pay for those crosswalks to be repaired when it should be covered underneath DOT?
You're 100% accurate. This, again, if y'all will recall, this was to return it back to, basically fix the bad parts and return it back to what it is now. We can absolutely, and we can start it this week, telling DOT we need to come up and fix crosswalks. Now, at that point, they'll one, getting them up here, right? But two, they're going to cut out and they're going to patch that bad area.
Mhm.
So that crosswalk is going to look like patchwork quilt until they come. They're not going to just come in and okay, we'll repave this entire crosswalk from inbound to outbound, right? Gutter to gutter. They're going to come in and patch the bad part.
And then at that for me,
Mm-hmm.
that's when I go back to RFATs and I go, I need 150 or 300,000 or 400,000, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
that we need to patch those crosswalks. That's where I go back to RFATs and go, okay, Rock Hill, you've got $172 million. Fort Mill, you've got $175 million. I'm asking for $150,000 to fix our crosswalks.
I think the quote we got, if I recall correctly, from Joey on Thursday, to redo them all to your, I'll call it basic crosswalk for purposes of this conversation. I think that number was about 360,000, somewhere in there.
So I go back and I ask for $360,000 when they're getting 172 million for 160's exchange. They're getting another 190 something million for Cherry Road and Celanese. And let's don't forget about the 75 million that they want for Carowinds. So my little $360,000 request doesn't look like it's a big deal. You
Understood.
know? So let's back that crosswalk repair out.
Okay. And attack it from an
And
RFATS
attack it
and or
from an
DOT.
RFATS or DOT
Okay.
standpoint.
Fair enough. I mean, it is their
It's
responsibility.
their road and we're fixing their road for them. They don't come in and fix our city streets for us.
No, they do not.
They don't hardly plow their own road when the snow gets high.
Mayor and Charlie, or is
Yes.
$110,000 for crosswalks, is that all TK Drive?
No,
Yes, it's just for it will only fix the bad areas and return them back to what the rest of the crosswalk looks for all the crosswalks crossing TKK Drive.
it doesn't fix it all.
So all the crosswalks that are in that budget are state roads?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 100% on board with you.
That's where I'm at. Just take that all out right there. Let me see what kind of juggling I can do at RFATS.
Okay.
I like what you're putting down.
At that point, with the interest earnings, you're $519,942 to the good. Without the interest earnings revenue, you're $30,058 in the hole.
That's kind of where I'm at.
It makes it
folks.
It makes it work.
Can we go back and do, now that we're taking out the 110,000?
Sure.
Oh boy, here it comes. You're gonna want to put that in the parks, aren't you?
Now that we have
Well,
some extra.
and let me elaborate a little more on Rundy.
Oh,
Okay,
sorry.
I've got a thought.
Okay.
Okay. All right. The structural integrity of those units down there is not bad. The tubes that are supporting it's not bad. I think that if we were to get a slide from Cunningham
Game time.
or Playtime or wherever we get one, we get one of those slides. I believe that the fabricators that I know could fabricate plates and bolt-ons and all that good stuff for that unit, and it come out an awful lot cheaper than $50,000. I don't know what that looks like, but I've seen these guys come out and do things with welders that would absolutely amaze Picasso. And these guys, I mean, the unit is not bad itself. It's just the attachments on the unit that are bad. So if we're going to throw the whole thing away and not see if we can't fix the attachments. Now, I've got a welder guy coming out. If we want to put a $75,000, hole right there to say, okay, we're not going to go over 75,000. I've got a couple folks coming out to look this week to see if it would be feasible to do it. Now, it could be that the tubing that's there, you can't weld to it. It could be that you can't bolt onto it. I don't see why it wouldn't be, but it could be that it can't be done. And I would know more by the end of this week if it can be done.
But it's cool you're looking at options.
The only concern that I would have is if you're using, let's call it an aftermarket piece.
Right.
But that Joker it's not a new Mustang. It's not under warranty.
I wasn't going
It's
there.
way out of warranty.
I wasn't going on the warranty standpoint. Where I'm going from is, let's say that piece
Liability.
breaks.
Liability.
Yeah. Kid gets hurt. Yeah, because my guess would be having conversations with Game Time, they're probably going to tell us it doesn't meet the ASTM standards for playgrounds, whatever these things end up being. I would have a concern from more so the liability standpoint. And what does that do to the structural integrity of what it's being fastened to?
Well, that's why I wanted to have the conversation with these folks. They're certified welders. I've got one guy that's a certified underwater welder as well, but they're certified welders. So it would be as if, Well, like when the gentleman came and redid the bathrooms at Rundy Park. You know, we had to, the sinks haven't fallen off the wall and fallen on somebody, hurt somebody yet. So if they did,
Yeah.
it would go back on his, on his insurance, just like it would if I was a contractor still, had my contractor's insurance. If something that I put up breaks, then I would have been sued myself under my insurance. So if he does a job for us and he's insured and has an umbrella policy and all that good stuff, just like you have to carry to be a contractor, it doesn't matter whether he's welding on a piece of playground equipment or he's cutting a tree out in one of our nuance areas. If something happens to, and something breaks or we have a failure, then it goes back on their insurance as well. And I know that we would in turn be sued as well, but we're not talking about some guy just coming out with a stick welder and
I would wonder if our liability risk would be any different than not having lifeguards at the pool. You know what I mean? I don't know.
yeah,
Maybe
just
even say
something
that
to look at.
Vendor's the risk.
Right,
Keep
yeah.
those off slide. We're getting sued.
Right.
Doesn't matter if that thing's attached or not.
Right.
You definitely have what is called inherent risk, especially when it comes to parks, playgrounds, usage.
Sure.
Going to a pool where it's clearly marked, no lifeguards on duty,
Right.
things like that, because it's not required under DHEC.
Common sense isn't
If
common
if
anymore.
we go out and make modifications to a existing structure, and again, by no means am I an attorney,
Right. Right.
I don't know that that inherent risk is still there for us making those modifications. Could be wrong, right? Is that something we want to take that risk on?
I think
It's an
I think it'd be worth exploring for
It's
a
an
$250,000.
Right.
You know, I mean, I'd be worth at least putting the legwork in and say, hey,
Sure.
could we do this? So that's why I kind of took it on myself to maybe get
It's another opinion. And I appreciate you
get
getting
somebody over there to
Does
see.
this year's budget?
So how do you have anything else, Mayor?
That's all I've got.
So
How do we
with
find-
throwing throwing the 75,000 back in.
Well, that's
as a
what you were suggesting.
quote
Yes,
unquote
and that's
placeholder.
what everybody was suggesting.
Right.
Okay?
That's what you end up looking at, $444,942 to the good, or $105,058 in the hole.
Correct. What's your concern on the interest? Because you've shared a lot of opinion about that.
Well, we're banking our future that all this extra revenue that's not tax millage is going to be there forever
Right.
and continue to grow. And you know the interest rates are changing at some point. That's
But
you know, the golf course, we don't know what's going to happen. We get a bad storm, we don't get no money from the golf course. I'm sure the T-cut is potentially there, right? But we're using that money now, supplemental revenue, to augment personnel. And I'm not comfortable with that, and we're ignoring the future. So-
I would say we're using that supplemental revenue to stave off millage increases.
Yes, yeah, sure, it's fine.
Ultimately, that's, if we eliminate your T-cut franchise fees, we eliminate golf course paying $350,000, those extra revenue things that we identified basically this time last year and added into the budget, right? You're staving off millage increase.
I don't even
Right.
know if we're saving off a millage increase. I think we're using it to get some nice to haves and increase personnel. Because without that, we would not even be considering 90% of the stuff on this budget, department request. And I'm not saying we shouldn't meet some of these requests. I'm just saying we need to seriously consider the future, instead of just
and I think
snapshot.
you know, I think to your point that we need to think for the future, and the future of TEK does not look good if we don't have the staff to support our city. We're not. I mean, I'm saying do the two officers discretionary totally with what the chief wants to do. Chief Hasty's telling us that in order to keep our ISO rating, we got to have 3 firefighters. I don't see where, I mean, there's no getting around that. We start playing with people's insurance and that kind of thing, and we start doubling down insurances and stuff. Because back before we had the station, I'm gonna call it station number 2, because station number 1 to me was over here on the peninsula, because that was the first one and the only one we ever had. But until we got that, our ISO rating was not up there because we've got such a travel rate to go to Lake Ridge. When I lived in Lake Ridge, my insurance was an awful lot higher there than it was over here.
You said $80.
Okay.
$80.
I feel it's up 200 a year and I don't do nothing.
Listen, that's $7 a month.
That's just me personally. I'm where I'm at. I'm at 2 for the
I don't-
PD, and that's it. And that's where I'm at. You guys can do
2 for what?
2 for the PD, and let Chief pick what he gets. And that's it this year for me. You guys do whatever you want. That's just my opinion.
I agree.
So, whoops, hold on. Didn't mean to do that.
What?
So if I take out all personnel requests and the related costs under equipment, eliminate everything under projects other than, I haven't heard anybody say they don't want to see the 90 grand in Windjammer.
Yeah, everybody seems to be agreeing on that.
Well, my thing with
just
that,
leaving
if
that.
we don't do that, then what did we just spend that money at,
It's just going to be more.
you just, that, and
Then
then
we'll get more.
we just put a bunch of money into Windjammer itself. It looks beautiful, you know?
Yeah,
If we
I'm
don't
thinking
put
about
that in there, then.
So
then-
if
you
you
not do
eliminate
that. Yeah.
all staffing requests and related requests, and you just do the things that I just showed you, you're $1.1 million to the positive, or $591,000 to the positive.
If we don't use the interest income.
If we don't use the interest income, but
Keep it there for a second.
okay,
Can you scroll down? Let me look at those
which
projects
page?
again a little bit.
here.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. So that's not spending money on deer management, tree removal, crosswalks. Well, crosswalks. I love Chris's idea.
I mean, I think that we've taken out the 110,000 for crosswalks, so that's a
So
little closer on that negative 200 for mine and 100 to yours, Scott, which was 27,000 positive already.
right.
I think we're beating a dead horse. Everyone say what you want to do and get this over with. I mean, what are we doing? We keep just playing with the spreadsheet. It's 10 lines. What do you want to do? Come on, make a decision. Scott, where you at? I'm serious. We've been here we're going on 10 hours now between 2 days. This isn't rocket science.
Yeah, that's right.
We beat this horse to death. Everyone say what they want to say, and whatever consensus is, we roll with.
In regards to personnel, I can support where Mayor was at with that, so we can.
Where was, help me.
That was 1 HR, 2 patrol officers. I don't know about the dispatcher. Did you have the dispatcher in there?
Yeah, dispatcher.
Dispatcher and 3 fire.
Okay.
I would be completely comfortable with that.
I think the mayor said 2 PD total, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but put them on the
Putting it
patrol
on
officer
patrol
side.
because that's
Yeah,
the
on
higher
patrol.
the
So that way
expenses.
you got
Okay,
the,
that's fine.
we got the,
You got it on the high side.
Yep.
So now the equipment, we're all set there.
Yep.
Got 2, 3, 1, and 7 set,
Mhm.
and now this is the projects. Where are we at? Nothing in crosswalks. We already talked. We're going to do RFATs there.
90,000.
What's
RFATs or DOT?
DOT, RFATs, Windjammer. We're good with that. Playground. Anybody have anything that you really want to put in there
Talking 75, weren't we?
Playground?
for the playground?
I'm not good with
Well, I'm not good
zero.
with any of the stuff we did up top, so it doesn't
Yeah.
matter to me.
Well, okay, that's
I'm just
that's
saying,
fine. I
so you guys
completely respect that. But in regards to projects, where do you land? Where do you want to put in there?
On deer management.
I want some improvement on the parks.
Playground, not necessarily for Grundy, but I think that we need to look at improving our playground.
So
I'd say we need
Playground
at
budget.
least 50 grand in there.
Yeah.
Carmen, where do you want to be
I'm
there?
at 75 on that.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
I'm fine
Well,
with
let's
that.
split
Put
the
that in
difference
there.
and go 65.
Tree renewal, I was told that had to be done when I questioned it.
That's only 15 grand,
Exactly.
yeah, 15. Okay, we can add it.
right?
Deer management, I'm not okay with that coming out of reserves. If we have it in general fund and pickleball, that would be coming out of reserves.
So what is my deer
Pickleball.
management amount?
Um,
Mayor talked about
Yeah,
200,000.
Pickleball, pickleball's
Impact.
going to be
Mhm.
probably
Impact
impact
fees.
fees,
Right.
but deer management at 304, I'm okay with Dina Cole's recommendation, and I am going to implore my fellow council members to move forward with that number.
What was the 300?
304.
304. I'm good with the 304 because we can always go down, but it's going to be a whole lot harder to go up.
Right.
And I think that has to do a lot to do with how many we actually can cull versus how many we need to sterilize.
Okay. General consensus. Let's go back to the top so we can move this along.
No,
HR specialist, in or out?
out.
Guess it's out.
Okay. Police. Two,
Good with two.
whether it's one officer, one dispatcher, or two officers, good with two. Okay. Firefighters.
3.
I went three.
Carmen?
Carmen?
Um,
We got 2 at 0 and 2 at 3.
No pressure.
I'm going to say the same that I said before, that I want to listen to Chief Hasty about this and what we need, but even if I said 1, it's not going to change the ISO, so I'm going to say 0 just so that when we do it, it actually makes a difference.
Okay, so that means that stays. This goes.
Anybody have a problem with the equipment?
The 40 or the radios.
Anybody looking for a change there?
Okay.
Okay, so we're agreed.
Well, the radios, we have to do the radios.
Right.
Right. So you're at 415, 151 to the good, or $134,849 in the hole.
It's the 450 number we're looking at.
Mhm.
That's got to be the budget number.
Can everyone stomach that?
So you're using the interest, so my understanding is we use the interest income to be at 415, 151. But we don't have to use all of it.
No.
Right, the
have to-
balance of that goes in reserve?
Yeah, we don't have to use any of it.
Yeah, we would use 134.
Right.
And see if we didn't,
Don't forget, these numbers are a lot, there's guesstimates too.
Oh, sure.
Sure, of
These are
course.
guesstimates. I mean, it's approximations.
Yeah, that can
Point-
change either
point
way.
being, I mean, this time last year, our projection was we were going to be $224,054 to the good with.
So we're
bear
580,
with
right?
me for a second. Get this to the top here. Come on. Go up. Trying to do this faster than just scrolling. Interest earnings, we budgeted 300,000. We're at 482 and projected to finish at 632, 630,
Closer to 7, but
closer to 7.
650 to
Okay.
7.
And that'll go to reserve? What was left?
Mm-hmm. So
Lost.
as I
Yeah, there you go.
as I told council
That keeps us pretty
yesterday,
clean.
this number has now grown to approximately $520,000 to the good.
And I
Okay.
don't know that it matters whether we leave the interest income alone and use the reserves, or we use, I don't think it matters.
It doesn't matter.
It's
It just
city
doesn't matter.
income and we're putting money in the bank. Let's go.
all right,
Right.
we good with this?
I am.
Everybody good with this?
I'm good with what you just put in there.
Okay,
We'll do the
so
415, that'll be the contingency.
Brian-
would
Brian,
be
can
the
you
That's
live with
the-
that?
That would be
contingency.
operation contingency.
Once
I know you don't 100% support it, but can you be okay with it?
I would love to see a couple of firefighters in there. I know it's at 0. We did 2 PD. If we could maybe do or consider right now, just a question, maybe 2 firefighters, maybe even 1. If you guys can say no, we can go around the corner and just Scott. You can say 0 again. That's fine. I just want
I'm okay with where I'm at.
to. Okay. Tom,
Yeah, I'm good.
Carmen, I know where you're at.
I'm good with where
Yep.
we are, but I would like to say that once we have the end of the year contingency totals,
We have that for, usually when the auditors come in, they come in December. If we have an audit.
we'll have unaudited numbers for you by mid to late October
okay.
of
Un-
what you're.
un-
If
unaudited,
those
Okay, good.
numbers go above that 550 contingency that we have there, I would like to be able to come back and have a conversation about fire department again.
Totally agree.
Sure.
And
Okay. I can stomach that.
to build on that, I don't know if we didn't budget it if there'd be time to do it, but I'm making a commitment to Chief Hasty that I want to get him the firefighters.
Right.
I just don't see how we do it this year. But we build there over the next couple of years, and we get these bodies that everyone's asking for. We get them there. I just don't know how we do it this year.
I share that commitment,
Seven
and
is a
I'd
lot.
say if we could do it this year with contingency, I want to have that conversation.
Sure. I mean, we can 100% bring that back to council at a future council meeting, whether it be November, December, even January, right? Council can absolutely direct, in one vote, direct that operational contingency dollars go towards funding X amount of firefighters or whatever the case may be, right? We'll have off of this spreadsheet, you know what the cost is, right?
Right.
Per, whether it's one, whether it's two, here's what the budget impact will be. Here's where we're at. Honestly, come December, January, I think we're going to have a little bit better idea to a certain extent on what our interest rate's going to be on our interest income. That's at 5.44 right now. It may come down to 5. It may go up to 6.
Right.
Yeah.
I think one question to consider in all this too is, it's up to Chief Hasty, is what number, does one even help? Does it have to be 3? You know what I mean? Do we, my point being, if we hired one this year, one next year, one the year after, would that work? Or just having one extra right now, it doesn't change anything.
that's what-
You got to do
that's
all
what I-
3 at once.
Based on what Chief Hasty has said, both last meeting and tonight, and Chief, you're more than welcome to come up if I'm saying anything inaccurate. You're adding one per shift so that each of your 3 shifts has
Have an
the
extra
appropriate coverage for the ISO rating and NFPA
So
standards.
it would have to be 3 at the same time. And
So
when you were showing
probably 3 or
the
nothing.
general fund, what was coming in as leftover from this year was 200 and,
Is your mic on, Chief?
It's 520, estimated at 5,
224 is
Right.
what is there now.
correct.
But
And we're
you're-
estimating that to be approximately
So it-
520. My guess is by the time we finish up expenditures and things like that and start seeing where those savings are, where we've been down headcount in various departments and things like that, that 520 number, we already know that we also have savings in Parks and Rec capital outlay, Public Works, capital,
Public
and I need to
Works is
circle back on that,
minus.
but you got the Public Works capital, so that's just gonna add to that. So, one quick question. We took out the 85,000 here. Okay,
Where?
For the pole
is-
barn.
for the pole
Oh, yeah,
barn,
okay.
because we talked about spending it out of this year's funds and going ahead and moving forward. Is council comfortable with that being on your agenda for August 19th?
Very
To vote
comfortable.
Yes.
to say, move forward with that?
Yes.
Very
Yeah.
comfortable
Okay,
with that.
just wanted to double check.
I agree.
Didn't want to make an assumption and,
Because we already have the 78.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So we're basically at 70.
Yep.
Yeah, because the 40 for the new truck is in the new budget.
so, and we are on the grapple truck, just to try to move things to an end. On the grapple truck, are we cash paying for that in the new fiscal year? Or are we going to finance that over 4 years?
Thought we talked about financing it because the
Right,
equipment lease is going to drop off at.
correct,
Correct.
okay.
So that's
Mhm.
an
Financing
even.
It's even,
cost.
that's
You're
a
not my
wash.
favorite person on that, but I'm
I
going to
understand.
go with you.
I understand.
I'm going to
That's
support
why
you
I'm
on
asking
that.
the questions, because I
Right.
know I have an opinion that is different than some of y'all. That's why I'm asking the question.
Right.
So that I can be on the same page with you. Chief, am I accurate in what I said on the firefighters? One really doesn't move the needle. It would need to be the 3.
That's correct. And even if we had the 3 a portion of the year, that's moving us towards that completion of that ISO piece that we've been told we had to have. So
So we need to
So
figure
let me
that out
ask you a
again.
question, Chief. You said they do the ISO, I'll call it inspection or whatever, every 5 years? And they last did it in 2020, what?
2015, but they've
Oh.
also said that they could move that timeframe up. So we don't know. They say 5 years is an average.
So haven't done it in 9 years? Wow.
Well, they did in 22.
So 2022
Oh,
was the last time they did
22.
it.
7 years.
I thought you said 20.
Okay.
They did it.
Okay.
So they went from 2017 to 2022.
So hypothetically,
So
if we get
possibly
there
by
by
2027,
we'd be in a good spot. if they don't come early.
So, right.
He doesn't want to admit
So
it,
let me
but
say this, they look at the whole thing. They don't
Mhm.
look at just 1 year.
right.
They
Okay.
look- They deep dive
I got
in
you.
our records.
Right.
But we're still looking at a contingency from this year that could possibly potentially equal the number, the cost that it would take to add your 3 firefighters once we know that we have it. And there still would be enough that it would get us to make the interest income whole at 550.
When would we know that? December-ish?
So based off of this fiscal year, we'll be able to provide you unaudited numbers late October.
Okay.
But you won't have your audited numbers until middle of February, end of January, 1st of February.
So
Yep.
it's a no at this sitting, but
It's a
very
not
much
now.
a plan
It's not really. no.
for it once we can allocate those funds and have them clear of the budget.
Just for conversation's sake,
We can
Listen
bring
to
that
the
on as an
conversation.
agenda item.
if when
October.
those firefighters, let's say they did get added in, but not till January, blah, blah, blah. Even though this figure does represent a full year of them in, you're still 182,366 to the good on the projection. But again, keep in mind, every single payroll that goes by between the first one of October and the time that they start is going to lessen that impact, right? I would venture to guess, and Bob, you're my rain man, but I would say that if those firefighters came in the spring, all right, let's say they came in at the end of Q2, beginning of Q3, that 182 number is probably 250, 300,000. Which
When
is
do they
extremely
graduate
healthy.
from the academy, Chief?
So the academies, it depends on when the state runs the academy. Typically, they run one in the fall
Mhm.
and one again in the spring.
Mhm.
You know, if we can hire certified firefighters, it makes it better for us. We don't have to
Mhm.
send them to the fire
Mhm.
academy and pay them a salary while they're down there doing
Mhm.
training. Then we bring them back and have another, that's 10, 12 weeks.
Mhm.
And then we bring them back, we've got to send them to EMT school, so that's another 4 months.
4 months.
Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but since you've been here, we've only had to send one new hire to the academy?
We haven't sent any to the academy.
I thought we had one.
Yeah.
Maybe that was just to get somebody from firefighter 1 to firefighter 2.
Yeah,
Alright.
we have
We
moved
good?
people. We've actually increased certifications across the department.
Okay.
But
good?
yeah, we did have one go from 1 to 2. But yeah, it's an ongoing process.
Okay.
And it takes quite a bit of time to get one trained up and ready to go.
If I could ask council one final question. I'm going to take that off. Kind of along the same lines as the firefighter. When we have that conversation, let's say Chief Crosby says, I need to go with 2 patrol officers because that's where the benefit to our department and the citizens would be, right? That's going to have the biggest impact, all right? So I'm putting words in his mouth. When we discuss the firefighters, is council okay with also discussing the dispatcher position? And the only reason I bring that up is because it's 2 different functions that serve 2 different needs.
Maybe because we approved the 2 police officers with the thought that Chief Crosby could decide which one is
And
the
he very well
best.
may tell me, yeah, I want to go with 1 dispatcher, 1 patrol officer if I can only do 2. I was just saying, if we're going to come back in December, January to discuss the 3 firefighters, is there anything else that council would be willing to discuss at that particular time?
I don't know at this point.
Maybe that's a conversation for another time as we get closer. And it's just
I
not
really
tonight.
couldn't commit to that right now.
All right, fair enough. Okay. So I will circle back around with Chief Crosby on those 2 as to where they go. We'll update the spreadsheet. That will be done first thing in the morning. Get that sent out. We will send out we have to send everything to the paper by Thursday so that it can be advertised by Sunday for the public hearing, for the legal notice and whatnot. So that on August 19th, we would have a public hearing and schedule the first read of the budget for August 19th, with the second read being on at the September meeting. Is that good? Council, thank you for your time.
Okay.
To adjourn.
Motion second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, we are adjourned.